Okay, welcome back. For now, the only thing I can do is take care of the job I was assigned. Can't say if this applies to more typical student dormitories, but in this place there isn't that dramatic a difference in atmosphere between school days and vacation days. The residents wear casual clothes instead of school uniforms, but that's about it. Days offs aren't really that much of an upper, and weekdays aren't that strong a downer. The energy level around here appears to stay pretty much consistent. Almond's always doing her best dog and heat impression. Makina is constantly babbling away in dubious Japanese. Sachi never fails to offer perfect service with a specifically polite smile. And Michiru, of course, is an idiot 24/7. Likewise, this woman's expressions don't change much no matter what the calendar reads. Gazing at the clouds outside the window, she reaches tentatively toward an umbrella, then hesitates after a moment. The pattern repeats itself. Eventually, she picks up the tote bag sitting at her side, sees a few curious glances around the area, and begins to ease open the front door quickly as possible. Yo! Sakaki twitches like a startled cat. Slowly stiffling, she turns to face me. Going out, I see? Just so you know, the weather won't turn bad until late tonight. Have a safe trip. Despite my considered umbrella-related tip, this woman's expression is now one of clear hostility. It's my job, after all. Sorry, but whatever you think is necessary doesn't really matter. The objective evaluation was that you're in danger, and more importantly, have orders from the main. Alright then, time to go, I guess.
3日連続ですね。どうやら有事の仕事が関係してるっぽいのは分かったけど、それにしてもあんだけ拒絶されても行かなきゃいけないって辛いよね。
めんどっちいよな。
でもどうしてボディーガードとかさせるんだろう。由美子の周りってそんなに危険なこととかあった？お嬢様だってのはなんとなくは聞いてたけど。さあね。事情が変わったのかもしれないし、その辺は多分ユージも榊さんも教えてくれないだろうし、動向を見守る以外はないって感じでしょうか。そうね。まあ見守ってるうちにここで人情沙汰とか起きなきゃいいけど。みちる様、一人首をひねっていらっしゃいますが、ここで言う人情とは人の情けのことではなく、刃物で人を傷つけるの意味ですよ。わかってるわよ。そんなこと思ってなかったわよ。ちょっと何のことかわかんなかっただけよ。わかってへんがな。
No, that. The place where Saki spends her day off isn't far from the academy. Follow the footpath from our front gate until it turns to the south. Then walk 300 meters or so along the prefectural road down to the sea, and there you are. And you're there. There are a few obstacles and nothing in the middle of blind spots, so it'll be much more of a challenge as an observer. Sakaki's been shooting frequent looks over her shoulder in my direction ever since we left. I guess 60% of the reason is her hoping to find some opportunity to slip away and escape my surveillance. The other 40 is pure anger. As for concern on behalf of her bodyguard, clearly not even a single percent. In fact, the day after I admitted the truth, Sakaki tried to run away from me the moment she saw my face. But the girl is only an amateur, so naturally it didn't take long for me to catch up, but since she's been constantly watching for another chance, can't be too careless. Easy enough to catch up to her after she bolts, but there's also a possibility someone will attack her in the meantime, Far safer to constantly keep an eye on her.
よそ見すらしないのね。
I'm on the job after all, though. Cut my wages if I slack off. Sakaki heaves another heavy sigh, then heads for her destination with a slightly quickened gait. Easily marching her pace, I follow in silence. After less than 10 minutes of walk, we arrive at the riverbank. The river is called the Sunusaki, a smaller Class B river that flows down to the coast of Mishima Cap. Since we're close to where it meets the sea, it's fairly wide open, with a moderate-sized bank on either side. Not too far away, one of the East Beach Express lines owned by Sakake's family cuts through the water. Every 30 minutes or so, a two-car diesel train rumbles across the iron bridge. Sailing softly, Sakaki lowers the top bag in her hand to the grassy ground. She settles herself down next to it, retrieves a colorful pencil from her inside, then props her B4 size sketchbook against her knees. And looking straight at the scenery before her, she begins intently moving her pencil across the paper. And then we got animations. I only learned this after becoming Sakaki's girl, but the reason she supposedly leaves the campus for hours at a time is a very simple one. She draws pictures. Maybe she didn't want her classmates to know about her hobby. Maybe there's some other reason. Either way, I'm just glad she wasn't coming into contact with any strange characters. In that scenario, there could have been a lot of troublesome, primarily cleanup to take care of. But JP would probably warn me if the girl was up to anything too risky. I've never been that worried about her activities, or in other words more like highly curious.
ちょっと雲が少なくなって感じが変わったわね。
Sakaki's approach to her art is straightforward and orthodox. She begins to roughly sketch out the scene in general, then proceeds to fill in details little by little. She's not quite on the level of a dedicated art student, but judging from what I've seen of her work, the girl has a good amount of talent and skill. Ugh. That aside, I don't have much of an eye for art. I can tell she's good on a technical level, but I don't have many other impressions. Even if I did, expressing them would probably only irritate Sakaki further. Nice weather. Hanging back far enough not to get in Sakaki's way, I look up into the sky, feeling the sun beating down my face. The later half of July is always pretty hot, especially in this area. Nice, refreshing scenery and all, but is not the most unpleasant reason. Drops of sweat, the blazing sun, a vibrant picture taking shape. I shake my head to dispel the shadowy whispers of memories floating to the surface of my mind, then return my attention to the subject of my surveillance. Sun sinks to the horizon as if sliding gently down the slope of a mountain. All of a sudden, the area is bathed in orange light. Perhaps taking that as a signal of sorts, Sakaki gathers up her material, stretches out her legs for the first time in hours, slowly gets to her feet.
ね
And kicking lightly at the ground in apparent irritation, she speaks to me.
え、あなたそうやってずっと立っているばかりで私には一切話しかけようとしないのね。
Do you want me to make a conversation?
まさかただいつもしつこいぐらいに私の行く先を尋ねるくせにここに来たら何も聞かないから不思議に思っただけよ。
You came here to draw. Once I confirmed that you weren't going anywhere, I didn't have any reason to bother you.
仕事で必要なことだけ聞いたということなのね。
That's right. Talking to your client more than necessary would be an expression of personal interest. When that's not relevant, the bare facts are enough. What's wrong?
なんでもないわ。
Sakaki turns her back in somewhat grumpy fashion, lifts her top bag off the ground, then begins to walk off without so much as a word. I follow her quick, irritated strides at a similarly rapid pace. My investigation of Sakaki Yumiko's movements and protection of her person continue along those lines. Sakaki fundamentally ignored me when she did talk. It was mostly hostile questions or arbitrary complaints. The atmosphere was badly stained, to say the least. Gradually, the complaints began to grow more frequent and more aggressive, accumulating in an incident about 1 week later.
こうして毎日毎日あなたにつけ回されるのかと思うと一瞬も落ち着けないわ。
Today, Sakaki seemed more irritated than usual. She was reading in the lobby from earlier in the morning. Before noon, she heads out to sketch at the riverbank. In other words, the two of us have been alone together more or less all day. Since I have grated on her nerves. Stopping her drawing in the early evening, as always, she gathered up her belongings more rapidly than usual and stomped up to me and began to vent her spleen. Not to worry, I do have basic manners. I'm sure to avert my eyes when any potential shameful actions on your part.
そういうことを言うこと自体がマナー違反だってなぜわからないのかしら。
I've been intending to smooth things over, but seems to have poured oil on the fire instead. This is something I've been vaguely aware of for a while now, but it seems I have a bad habit of enraging women over the strangest little things. All the more pathetic because it's usually the result of well-intentioned words backfiring rather than actually miraculously on my part.
第一、あなたの言うその脅威って何なのかしら。こうして散々つきまとってよくわかったでしょ。私はすでに実家からも邪魔者扱いされた存在なの。今さら誰かが営利目的で近寄ってくることなどありえないわ。
From the start, Saki had insisted that she didn't want protection, but now she tries a different objection. Be sure I haven't picked up on any concrete threats approaching Sakaki in the week that I've been watching over her. I'll be too late to start protecting you after something happens. A bodyguard is a preventive measure, not much good in installing a burglar alarm after someone cleaned out your safe, right?
でも現実に襲ってくる人間なんていないじゃない。言っておくけど、あなたにつきまとわれたこの1週間だけじゃなくて、2年近く一人でいたのに、そんなことはこれまで一切なかったんだから。
But today, that just might be that change.
詭弁を下ろしたって無駄よ。
Alright, in that case, take a look behind you.
だから。
Sakaki starts another anger retort, but swallows her words as she knows I said something strange. There's been something wrong with this picture for a little while now.
背後って何が。
Sakaki too seems to have finally caught the scent of something strange in the air. With a timid, uncertain movement, she slowly turns her head around. I like how a vast majority of them look the same, minus like their hair height. Like there's that short ass one, then there's medium, then there's the tall. A group of blankly suspicious looking men in black suits stare back. They're not even trying to hide what they are. Which probably means they're planning to take forcible measures. Only reinforcing this impression, the unmarked van parked next to their car on the road above standard vehicle for carrying off a kidnapped victim. These gentlemen don't strike me as the most peace-loving bunch. Even without the van and the suits, it's clear enough from the glance at the lead group that these people aren't here for a calm negotiation. A brawny man, strikingly white in the shoulders, towers at the head of the pack at his side. There's a man with bandage. He's rolled around his fist, probably gripping something hard. third keeps his arms tangly loosely at his side in the manner of a martial artist, waiting and watching for us to make a move. Even if they come out with a good evening, if you spare a moment to talk, at this point, I'd be hard to take it as anything but a sarcastic provocation.
ねえ、この人たち誰なの?
Sakaki's tone of voice has grown distinctly uneasy. Faced with an unfamiliar atmosphere and a face of danger, her normal cold-headed indifference has melted away. She's unconsciously grabbed onto my shirt, and there's a clear fear in her eyes. Yeah, this is what happens when you don't pay attention to your surroundings. Oh, I don't have much value as a so I think it's safe to assume they're after you, Sakaki.
だって私は
You make excuses if you want, but I don't think they're going to change their objective. Sakaki's hands grasp my sleeve more tightly. The men approach slowly and slightly fixed gaze intently on us, looking for the right moment to take action. Three in front seem like the main threat. They got 5 others hanging back as support, including their drivers, but that group doesn't seem to have any combat experience. Listen very carefully, Sakaki. Drawing my face close to Sakaki, I push her long hair away from the side of her head. Sharply white ear emerges from her, hiding behind the black curtain. I speak a few quiet blank words and stay down, make yourself as small as possible, and keep yourself behind me. Just do it, alright, unless you're eager to take a ride with these charming people.
まさかこの人たちと
Why do you think I was hired for? Even though your father really underestimates my actual combat ability. Sakaki questions falters off halfway through, but her meaning clear enough. I offer her a firm, empathetic nod. I can handle 8. Might be a little frightening, but deal with it.
あなたが何をしているのか知らないけど、あんな人たちを、しかも大勢相手にするのなんか無理よ。
They'll be fine. Just do what I told you.
そんな
And that is as Sakaki tries to continue her objection. A man with the physique of a rugby player who had been standing at the hand of pack rushes forward, aiming to tackle me to the ground. Get down, Sakaki. As soon as Sakaki throws her face down to the ground, I dodge the enormous man, charge like a toreador evading a bull. Apparently, a rugby man wasn't expecting such well-timed sidestep. It makes a strange little grunt as the momentum carries him past me. Nice broad back you got there. Before he can begin to turn, I sharply drop my right elbow down onto his oversized spine. You have to admit, though, it makes it for a nice big target as well. Rugbyman exhales roughly, then collapses face first into the dirt. That's one for starters. Confirming that my oversized friend isn't getting up anytime soon, I looked up 180 degrees to face the other attackers. Bandage Hands here has a different style. He's spitting out short pants at regular intervals, pouncing slightly from side to side in time to the rhythm. This one's shorter than me, but his body abnormally slim and lithe. His physique suggests extraordinary agility. From his stance, with his right arm slightly below and behind his left, it's clear that he's an experienced boxer. If he lands a punch, he'll probably going to be a bone fracture or internal bleeding. A looking match with a boxer is never a good idea, let alone when he's grasping something. In other words, I need to dodge until I have a chance to launch a disabling counterattack to a weak point. The tempo of Bandage Hand's breathing grows steadily quicker. As he slowly begins to close the distance between us, the slight movements of his body begin to include something of a forward back sway. He's coming. The man exhales heavily, springs forward, his half hidden hand shooting toward my face. I ducked my hand just barely enough to avoid the punch. Now within range, he follows up with a right swing from the left. That's what I was looking for. Clearly evading the second half of this predictable combination, I slide forward to point-blank range and land a violent kick to his shin. The Spanish hand freezes up from the pain. I step back, pivot, and swing my fist into his right flank, throwing my whole body into the punch. Spittle and strangle like a little grunt spray from the boxer's mouth. His eyes roll back in his head and collapses heavily to the ground. Should probably stay down for a little while after taking a direct hit to the liver. Before the others can react, I settle myself at Sakaki's side. 2 down. I look over at the final remaining member of the attacking team. Although there's a hint of shock in his expression after seeing the others go down so quickly, his composed posture suggests a fundamental confidence. He clearly thinks himself on a different level from those two. His precarious stance involving constant movement of his limbs reminds me strongly of a Chinese kung pao my master taught me back in the day. This one's aiming at a counter himself. I picture him smoothly sidestepping the instant I try to lunge forward. The loose swaying of his body might not look particularly intimidating to an amateur's eye, but I'm confident he's more dangerous than the others. Well, let's try a trap. Intimidating rugby man. I spring forward like a sprinter, charging directly at the martial artist. He instantly slips away from my attack with a triumphant little laugh. From that side, he fires off a sharp kick aimed at my pivot leg. Took the bait. I shuffled to grip his extended leg and twist it roughly in my arms, bringing him to the ground in a leg lock. Specifically, it's a heel hook, and the sort frequently seen in your nastier mixed martial arts competitions. I twist his foot back with my arms, causing agonizing pain that would normally inspire a quick tap out. Of course, this isn't a match, so that's not an option. The man desperately uses his free leg and arms to attack me, but even his heels completely immobilized. It's impossible to gain the leverage necessary for an effective blow. Sorry, but I need you to settle down for a while. Bringing the strength of my arms to bear, I bend this man's heel sharply to the side. The joints of his ankle crack loudly and his foot turns in an direction toward nature never intended it to. The man lets out a strangled little scream, and I feel this fight go out of him. When I realize the hold, he instantly clutches his ankle and rolls around on the ground, tears streaming down his face. That's everyone. Rising quickly to my feet, I place my body protectively in front of Sakaki. The men left standing nearby are 2 members of the supporting team. I glower up at them expectantly. The remaining men keep their distance, watching warily and hissing to each other in frustrated voices. What they signed up for. Maybe the kidnappers hashed out internal contracts or something of the sort. Nothing I need to be concerned about at the moment, I suppose. Gonna run away now, Sakaki. I pulled Sakaki by the hand and ran up the slope bank toward the street above. Sakaki quickly runs out of breath, but pushes herself desperately forward, barely managing to keep up. After reaching the road, I shoot one quick glance over my shoulder at the group of men we left behind. The remaining members are helping the battered fighters back to their vehicle rather than pursuing us. Concluding that they were backing off for now, I set off at a rapid jog toward the dorm, towing Sakaki along behind me. Although the men didn't seem to be chasing us, just to be safe side, I took a number of brief detours on the way back to the campus. The sun had just been setting as we left, so by the time we finally reached the gate, it's already dark out. Bursting into the dorm in this state would just alarm everyone, and I don't think Sakaki's looking for more of a fuss right now. Instead of running straight into the lobby, I'll lead her to the courtyard. You're alright, Sakaki? Finally releasing her hand, I ease Sakaki down into a bench to rest. Girl makes an admirable effort at keeping up a tough front, but after all that running, she's understandably fatigued. Something. That's pretty vague. You're referring to my scuffle with those gentlemen? Sakaki silently nods her head. Well, I've been trained on how to deal with people proficient in various skills. It's kind of relevant in my line of work. In my profession, you naturally meet people with a wide range of experience in this regard. Former Dan rank Kenpo practitioners, karate experts who made it to the nationals. Sometimes you'll even run into guys who compete in the world championships or something or other. Naturally, the same goes for our organization competitors and professional rivals. So the instructors teach you a wide variety of coping strategies covering more or less the full range of martial arts. And by taught, I mean they beat the technique into you. I myself suffer more than a few lessons that very nearly ended in bone fractures. She mutters the word without a hint of ridicule, a tone of complete conviction. This is a world Sakaki knew nothing of until now, simply outside her range of experience. Even if she understood in an academic sense that people like that existed, personally coming into contact with them has clearly driven home just how real and unpleasant the world is. Oh my god, my phone. So there's your wake-up call. You understand now just how much danger you're in. Sakaki nods with uncharacteristic honesty. Why not? Her expression changes to the fears fade, leaving something gloomy and bitter in its place. Just like the other day, I can see a hint of defeat in her eyes. Sakaki brushes off a few clumps of earth from her skirt, then opens her bag carefully, returns the colored pencils scattered loosely inside to their box. With the desk gone, but she takes the bag in her hand and rises abruptly to her feet. And with this brief announcement, she strides quickly off in the direction of the door. But she stops dead about 4 paces away. After a moment's hesitation, she turns towards me and comes back. Her body's facing me, but her eyes won't quite meet mine. What is it? All of a sudden, she lowers her head in a slight bow. It's so genuinely unexpected that all I can do is watch. I can't think of anything to say in return. Once again, Sakaki turns on her heel. This time she doesn't stop. Her feet crunch across the gravel at a steady, controlled pace as she makes her way across the courtyard. By appearance, at least, she's already back to the Sakaki Yumiko I know. I watch her as she goes, thinking back over the events of the day. I have to say, though, that was strange. People who came after us today were, without a doubt, standard crew of moderately skilled hooligans, but there's one thing that's been bothering me. came at me one by one, taking turns like something out of a manga. That makes exactly 0 sense. And also, I gotta end this part on to the next because I doubt I can end it with this type of music going on in the back.